Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Here's what's making news tonight. Some public schools in New Providence extremely overcrowded. We'll tell you which ones. A police officer accused of extortion today. The labor minister gives an update on Wyndham employees. Plus, a sorority donates school supplies to some special students. Those stories and much more on the way. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and NB12 starts right now. Thanks again for joining us here at NB12. 53,000 students returned to public schools this week, but those who enrolled in schools in southern New Providence found that the already packed classrooms are even more crowded this semester. This according to Director of Education Lionel Sands. Our Jasmine Bonamy has the numbers in this report.
According to Sands, the reality is that many schools like this one in southern New Providence are simply overcrowded. According to Sands, while the issue of overcrowding is nothing new, the problem only continues to get worse. In fact, education officials have said an additional 400+ students, many of whom are coming from private schools, were placed within the public school system this fall. Sands says education officials are mandated to place the hundreds of new students based on the Education Act. The education director adds that most of the overcrowding is being experienced at nearly every school in southwest New Providence.
We do have some overcrowding in southwest and southeast New Providence.
And the overcrowding in that school division is being experienced in both primary and high schools, says Sands. Those schools include Carmichael Primary, Anatole Rogers High School, C.V. Bethel High School, Garvin Tynes Primary, and Sadie Curtis Primary. Each were built to carry a maximum of 700 students. However, Sands says they've all passed the 1,100 student mark. According to Sands, at C.V. Bethel High School, there are 1,400 students. At Anatole Rogers, there are 1,300 students, and another 1,400 students are enrolled at S.C. McPherson High School.
A few of our primary schools, they've exceeded their capacity in terms of housing the maximum numbers of students that are available for those particular schools. We have a school like Sadie Curtis that's reached the maximum and actually beyond the maximum. The same is true with Cleveland Enos Primary School, C.V. Bethel High School, S.C. McPherson Junior High School, Garvin Tynes Primary School, Gerald Cash Primary School. These are all schools that have reached their maximum, and now they've exceeded their maximum in terms of the number of students. And this, what happens then would invariably increase the class size, which of course is not the ideal thing for us. But of course, the reality is there has been a shift in population from the northern part of the island to the southern part of the island.
Sands adds that while the ministry has sought to transfer some students to other schools, he says the distance often proves too great for parents who find it more convenient to send their kids to schools in their area.
We could move students to some of the schools in the north where there are spaces available. The challenge we have with that, as I indicated earlier, when you're talking about moving first graders, that's a big problem. To move first graders from out of their place where they live to an area that is several miles away could be problematic. It could happen, but it could be problematic.
While there is a definite need for more schools to be built on New Providence, Sands says the reality is there is not enough funding. In total, there are 160 schools that fall under the Ministry of Education across the Bahamas. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
Years after the government's student education loan program was suspended, there are still tens of millions of dollars outstanding as this current administration considers taking a hardline approach to collections. Christina McNeil tells us how this happened and what's next.
As the government struggles to collect more than $70 million in outstanding student loans, Education, Science and Technology Minister Jerome Fitzgerald says the current state of the Education Loan Authority is both discouraging and disgusting. Fitzgerald made those comments on the Guardian radio show Darrell Miller Live earlier this week in regard to the student education loan program suspended in August 2009. In the aftermath of those comments, Senator and former Education Minister Desmond Bannister told NB12 that in 2010, the program had more than $70 million in outstanding loans. Bannister explained that the figure was closer to $100 million. He added that the information regarding audits of the authority are available if the minister needs them.
Still, over the last 4 years, they have not had an audit to the Education Loan Authority, which I am just disgusts me, to be honest with you. It hasn't progressed any. We have a lot of persons who, for one reason or the other, are not paying off the loan, which makes it difficult for us to have sufficient funds to send more kids off, and so we have to revamp it. We're looking at it now to see what we can do to encourage persons to pay. Rather, we have to start taking a hardline approach.
Bannister says it was essential to stop the program back in 2009 because it had been allowed to grow wild under the Christie administration. Now taxpayers bear the burden of paying back loans that hundreds of students have left in arrears.
When I was minister, we asked the Auditor General to look at the issue of auditing the whole school loan issues. And I heard the comments by the minister, and the information is there. If the minister takes the time to look, the information is there for him to look at. The Bahamian people are spending a whole lot of tax money on loans that are uncollectible. Millions and millions of dollars. It came to its end. As taxpayers, you, myself, our children are going to have to pay for them. For the irresponsible people who didn't pay. I spoke to that publicly many times. It ought to remain where it is.
As for the future of the program, Fitzgerald said there is a need to revamp the structure of student loans and scholarships. If students are receiving assistance for higher education, Fitzgerald says government needs to ensure that students can return home to a job that will allow them to fulfill their financial obligations. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
And on to news from the courts. A policewoman who was accused of receiving $1,300 to clear a civilian's name was charged with 2 counts of fraud by false pretenses in a magistrate's court. Shakia Hinzi, who works in police prosecution, pleaded not guilty to the charges. It is alleged that the 27-year-old officer of Sandilands Village Road defrauded Shanique Major of $800 by saying the money would be used to cancel traffic warrants and tickets, knowing that she didn't have the authorization to do the same. Police believe that Hinzi collected the money from Major sometime between June 1st and July 31st. According to court dockets, Hinzi also defrauded Major on August 31st of another $500. Hinzi was represented by attorney Ian Cargill. Deputy Chief Magistrate Carolita Bethel granted her bail in the sum of $7,500 with 1 or 2 sureties. The trial is set for December 14th at 10 a.m. Well, 11 Haitian immigrants are in police custody in Eleuthera after their vessel landed near the Glass Window Bridge around 11 last night. Police say Eleuthera residents alerted them to the landing, and when officers responded, they found several illegal immigrants running in the area. Police were able to arrest 11 of them. The Royal Bahamas Police Force and immigration officials say they have launched an intense investigation. Meantime, a Royal Bahamas Defense Force vessel was destroyed by fire early this morning. The Defense Force reports that a blaze broke out on Harbor Patrol vessel P-38 at the Defense Force's Harbor Patrol unit on East Bay Street. The force said the blaze began shortly after midnight, and the 27-foot vessel was eventually completely consumed by fire, while an adjacent vessel incurred some minor damage. The fire department and the Defense Force worked to put the fire out. It's also reported that a marine mechanic in his 40s was injured while attempting to extinguish the fire. He was treated on scene and was later admitted to the Princess Margaret Hospital. He reportedly received second-degree burns to his hands, feet, and face. We're told those burns were not life-threatening, but he is being closely monitored. His identity has not been released. The Defense Force said the cause of the fire is still unknown, However, investigations continue. Well, Customs and Immigration officers have reportedly returned to their scheduled shifts. This after Labor Minister Shane Gibson threatened to cut their pay. On Monday, Gibson threatened to take action after they continued to show up to work outside their shifts. However, by Tuesday evening, he says members of the Bahamas Customs, Immigration and Allied Workers Union had returned to their normal shifts.
After my last statement, the Customs and Immigration returned back to their normal shift because they had instructed their members, instead of working the shift, rotating shift, that they should work from 9 to 5. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday they returned back to their normal shift. And last night they emailed them a copy of counter proposal, which I think they should have gotten the hard copies today. And we are supposed to start negotiations. They actually wrote into us asking us to if we could begin the negotiation process dealing with the non-financial items first.
The government and customs union are negotiating the terms of a new industrial agreement. Union Vice President Sloan Smith said last week that the government was dragging its feet in presenting a counter-proposal. However, Gibson said the union has now received that document. Union leaders also argue that they are governed by general orders, not this current shift system, which they have described as illegal. Gibson says there is nothing illegal about the current system.
It wouldn't be in the best interest of the country right now if we were to take Customs and Immigration off shift. I believe that it's generally accepted that it's very necessary at this time. I think the coming to the destination is very expensive. The airlines complain about the amount of overtime that they had to pay. And so hopefully I believe that we can reach a formula that would allow everybody to be satisfied that the shift system is in the best interest of everybody at this time. But it is very difficult for us to operate at the level we want to if we had to put the Customs and Immigration back on straight days and working overtime each day after 5 o'clock and on Saturdays and Sundays.